Welcome back. As we look at another tool for our Natural Remedies toolbox, I'd like to take a look at herbal extracts. How powerful are the herbal extracts? When we look at herbal extracts, we want to look at the bioavailability. How much nutrition are we getting from that herb into that extract? Well, let's take a look. When you ingest a liquid extract, you're able to absorb and utilize the nutrients from the herbs right away. You're not having to wait until the capsule breaks down. You're not having to wait until the tea's made. You can just take that herbal extract, open it up, and either squeeze it in some water or squeeze it in your mouth, and you can drink that right away. Another benefit of the extracts are the potency. Liquid extracts preserve or lock in their nutritional potency much longer than capsules or bulk herbs, which are used for teas. Capsules and tablets also have a propensity to lose their potency when exposed to the elements. As we look at shelf life, how long will this herb here last? Whether we're making it in a tea, whether we're putting it in a capsule, or versus if we make an extract out of it. If we're just using it for a capsule, or if we're just using it for a tea, I like to use that within 6 months after I get it. Because see, I don't know how long it was before I got it from the place who capsulized it or made the bulk herb, and then how long is it from when they got it to when it was harvested. So you want to use it fairly quickly. So you've got about 6 months, on the outside 12 months. When you use an extract, you've got a lot longer use. The extract will last, when we make an herbal extract such as we have here, this will last us 1 to 2 years. And so you've got a much longer shelf life. It's kind of like canning. You know, when we can our string beans, or we put up our corn, or we can our applesauce, or we can our peaches, we need that through the winter. Well, God has given us herbs that we can use. And yes, herbs may last through the winter fair, but if you want them to be really strong, because they lose that potency, as it's like a bell curve or a curve, it starts going down. As they lose that potency, you got to take more. Where if you go and put it up, as we would say in canning, and make an extract out of it, you've got a good potency through this winter, even up through next summer into the next season. So you'll last 1 to 2 years. Herbal extracts are easily administered. A lot of children and older people have a problem swallowing. They can't swallow a tablet. They can't swallow a pill. But when you have an extract, you're able to take it, and let's say you may do 2 mLs or 2 dropperfuls. You may do a teaspoonful, just depending on how strong your extract is, versus having to drink, say, a quart of the tea a day, or having to swallow the capsules. A lot of times as we use herb capsules, we're using 3 to 4 capsules 3 times a day. So that's a lot of swallowing that folks have to do if they have challenges swallowing. So as we look at this, from the standpoint of swallowing capsules versus just drinking a liquid is much, much easier. The extracts also can be put in water or juice or in an herbal tea to take that. So you don't have to worry about just taking it straight. You can, but you can also put it in something else. Vegetable glycerin extracts are an excellent alternative to alcohol-based extracts. When we look at alcohol, there are folks who have challenges with alcohol. Let's say we have milk thistle. I've got milk thistle here somewhere. We'll talk about that. And we're using milk thistle to address a person who has liver challenges, cirrhosis of the liver. Well, we don't want to use an alcohol base for that, because this person just gave up using alcohol, so we want to stay away from that. Glycerides were discovered back in 1789 and came into use by herbalists around 1846. Vegetable glycerin is obtained by hydrolysis of vegetable fats and fixed oils. Vegetable glycerin is a great solvent for extracting nutrients from plants without the use of alcohol. These extracts are known as glycerites and are an excellent choice for administering herbal support to people who either have sensitivity to alcohol or just who choose not to use it. A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to go to one of the best, if not the best, extract company in the United States. And as I spent the day there walking the fields with the owner of the company and going into his laboratory, this huge laboratory, which was very scientific, I asked him the question. I said, what if I make I take your alcohol extract and I put it in a glass and then pour boiling water on it? Will the alcohol totally go away? He said, no. You cannot get the alcohol totally out of it, even if you pour boiling water in it. Yes, he said, you'll lose some of the alcohol, but you'll still have alcohol in that. So I choose to go with the glycerate because I just don't have a desire for that alcohol. Yes, it may last longer, but I just choose to stay away from the alcohol product to go inside the body. The anti-fermentative properties which are in glycerin are very effective in preserving nutrients which are in herbal extracts. And we've been using the glycerin extracts for many years and found them very, very effective. The glycerin has a shelf life of 14 to 24 months. So as we look at a vegetable glycerin, we're going to look at somewhere a little over a year to 2 years, the shelf life on this. Versus if we used an alcohol extract, then we're looking at 4 to 6 years. Yes, it lasts longer, but I just choose not to use the alcohol. I believe it's better for my body not to ingest alcohol, so that's a personal choice. When making a glycerin with dried herbs, it is common to use a little hot water to rehydrate the herb and loosen up the botanical matter. So as you're getting ready to make your extract, you will put your herb in there and you'll put you take boiling water off, wait about 30 seconds. You're going to pour that on there just enough to cover the herb to break open those cells and allow those cells to be able to start letting out their properties into the glycerin. Generally, a mixture of 60 to glycerin and 40 or less water. So 60% glycerin or more, 40% or less water. To err on the safe side, many of the herbalists will do 75% glycerin, 25% water as they make and this is the combination we'll talk about in just a few moments. When working with fresh, moist herb, one can use 100% glycerin for their extract. They just want to make sure it's mixed very well. So what you can do is you can take the bottle, you can put in that fresh herb, it doesn't have to be dried, and then you can take your glycerin and you can just put it in there 100%, but you've got to make sure you use your spoon, stir it around very well, and make sure that glycerin's well mixed within it. It's kind of like chewing your food. When you chew your food, you want to totally masticate it and you want it to absorb all those pre-digestive enzymes. Kind of like when you're out mixing a wheelbarrow of concrete and you pour in your Sackcrete, you pour in your water, and you move your hoe 2 times. Is it ready to pour in the hole? Not at all. You've got to keep moving that hoe and adding the water until all that powder totally absorbs the water, until you have that concrete mixture. Well, the same thing's here. So when you put your herb in, if you're using dry herbs, or even if you're using the fresh herbs, you want to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. But even when you're using the dry herbs, you want to make sure you mix it well. So how do we make the extract? It's very simple. First, you're going to take your mason jar, whichever size, whether it's this size or whether you're doing a quart, or sometimes you may have a gallon mason jar or a 2 quart mason jar. So we can have a pint, you can have a quart, you can have a half gallon, or you can have a gallon, just depending on how much you want to make at one time. And when you do it, you're going to fill your bottle half full of the herb, and then you will then pour in your extract. And how do you do your extract? I'm sorry, your glycerin. You take your glycerin And so what I'll do, what we did here is we put 75% of the vegetable glycerin, 75% vegetable glycerin, and then we poured in 25% water. And then we stirred it. Can you kind of tell it's kind of hard? I can feel the viscosity is a little higher than just water in here. It's a little slower to turn. I don't know if you can tell, it drips a little bit different there. And so you make your glycerin combination. If you're using fresh herb, you're using 100% glycerin. Then what we'll do is once we put the herb in there, we will take and we'll pour in, and we will just enough of the water to make the herb moist, not saturated, not where water's standing in here, but moist enough that it breaks open those cells. And then we're going to pour that in there. So after we put the herb in the jar, we're going to take, and we've got boiling water. We're going to let it wait about 30 seconds after it stopped boiling, and then we're going to pour it in here just enough to moisten the herb. You don't want it to have water in the bottom. You just want to moisten the herb. And what that's going to do is it's because of the warmth, it's a vasodilator, just like putting warm on your skin in hydrotherapy. It's going to open up those cells, and it's going to allow the nutrients to flow out of those cells and be able to go into the glycerin. Now we're going to take and pour the menstruum. Now a menstruum is a combination of. It's kind of like where we were talking about that wheelbarrow. You made concrete, that's a mixture of water and saccharine, so it'd be like a menstruum. So a menstruum is a mixture of different liquids. So it's got water and it has vegetable glycerin. So we're going to pour the menstruum over the herb, stir it really good, pour it, and then we're going to about an inch over the top. Now you don't want to make the mistake I made the first time I made an extract. I thought, well, let's see. I want to make a lot. So I filled my jar up to about right here of herb. And I thought, well, this is enough room. I can do it. So I poured in my glycerin, and it started rising and rising as it was taking on water and filling up with water. And I kind of kept most of it in there. And then I thought, well, I'll just see how it does tomorrow. And I put my top on it, and I kind of shook it around, and I put it up in the cupboard. The next day I came, and it was dry. And I mean, it was full to the top. So I thought, well, what do I do? So I got another mason jar. And I started spooning out into this mason jar. And I kept spooning, and I kept spooning, and I kept spooning. And I got another mason jar worth. So then I took the glycerin, and I kept going back and forth until I was about an inch over the top. What was that? I filled it full the first time. All I had to have done is just do it half full. Kind of reminds me of when I made sprouts the first time. I put too many in, and it burst the jar. So what we're going to do, we filled it half full. We've now poured the water just 30 seconds after it finished boiling. And then we're going to pour the menstruum, which is the combination of the water, 25% water, 75% vegetable glycerin. Mix that thoroughly. We poured that on top. We're doing 1 inch above the top of what the herb is. And then I put the top on, and I kind of shake it. And then what we'll do is we'll put a label on it. Just as we put a label on here, on my bottle that we'll do in a few minutes, you want to put a label on this one here, and it's going to say whatever your herb is. So the herb that we're doing today is California poppy. California poppy is a tremendous herb for pain. So we're going to make an extract from California poppy. So I write California poppy. What else do I need? The date. So I put the date. Today is whatever the date is, and that's going to tell me how long this is good for. And because then when I take this information, I then will put it onto the bottles that I fill. I know what my product is, how long I put it, how long it was in here. The other reason I want the date is because I may do it the long method. The long method is 4 to 6 weeks. And so I need to know when to quit shaking it every day 4 or 6 weeks down the road. Or if I'm making a double strength, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, I need to know that initial baseline date that I started. So you've labeled your jar, you've identified what's on there, and then you will place it in a dark place. And I put it in a cupboard. So I'll go to the kitchen and I put the top on good and tight and I shake it to make sure, even taking a spoon before I even put the top on and make sure it's well stirred, and then I'll put it into the cupboard and leave it till the next day. Then the next day I come back, I pull out my tea, my extract, and I will take it and shake it again. And so I'm doing it upside down, side up. So the first night I put it in upside down. The next day I put it in right side up. Then the next day I put it upside down, because your herb is going to want to go to the top. And so when I shake it and then I turn it this way, it's kind of like when you have natural peanut butter. And when I have peanut butter, you take it, and you know how the oil goes to the top and you're not able to, you got to get through that oil. Well, the way you do that is yes, you can stir it, but you put your top on and set your peanut butter upside down. And the oil will come to the top, so then when you need your peanut butter, open it up and you don't have all that oil on the top. Same philosophy here. And so what you're doing is every day, now for 4 months, 6 months, whatever, however long you've decided to do it, you'll keep doing that every day in that dark cupboard. Let's say that you want to have double strength. Have you ever seen an extract that says double strength? Well, what they did is they took that herb, and it's ready now to take out. And so they will take it out, and they will squeeze out all the herb, and then they'll pour the extract back into, say it's this size bottle, they'll pour it into the bottle. They'll take more herb and put it in there, and they'll just use this amount of extract, and they add enough herb that they can still have that liquid above the plant material. Mix it up well, and you go back and you start all over again, another 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, upside down, up and over. So what happened is you just made a double strength extract. Yes, you've had it there 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, whatever you had, and then you have all brand new plant material, and you're redoing it again in that same extract. That's how you have double strength. So let's do it. Let's see how to make this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with a smaller bottle. And what's the first thing we do? Well, one thing is you want to wash your bottle out. You want to make sure it's good and clean, just like when you're canning, you're going to run it through a sterilizer, whether it's through your dishwasher that gets really, really hot, or put it in boiling water. You want to kill any bacteria that may be in there. Then you're going to take your herb, and when you put your herb in there, I like using cut and sifted. There's powder, and then there's cut and sifted, and there's whole. I choose cut and sifted because I can see what it is. I know what California poppy looks like. I know what Podiarco looks like. But if it's just a green ground up stuff, powder, or a ground up brown, I just know what it looks like in the cut and sifted. I can identify it to know I've got a good quality. I know I have the product that I'm looking for. You also, when you look at your herbs, you want to smell it. Have you ever been out to the barn and smelled alfalfa hay? You know it's alfalfa hay. It's got that strong smell of alfalfa. Well, that's what you want to know. When you smell your herbs, you should be able, on most of your herbs, you can take it, smell it. Ah, that's chamomile. That's spearmint. Now that's peppermint. And so as you use your herbs, you can say, no, that doesn't have any smell. That says red clover. Don't smell like red clover. The blossoms, they're not very purple looking. They look brown, they look dead. Well, why are you using your herbs? Are you using your herbs extracts or your herbs in general? Are you using them for medicinal reasons? Or are you using them just to taste good? Well, when I use herbs, I'm looking for that medicinal benefit. Yes, it's nice that you have that nice taste, but I'm after that medicinal benefit as I work with helping people. If a person comes in and they've got cirrhosis of the liver, I want the most powerful milk thistle that I can use. If a person comes in and they've got an ejection fraction of 15, we need to get that ejection fraction, that heart ejection fraction up. I need a good, strong hawthorn that I can use that's going to do the job. So you want a good, strong herb that's going to do the medicinal benefit. Okay, so I'm going to put the herb in here. I'm almost half full, not quite. Now what's the next thing I'm going to do? Water, that's right. I'm going to take my water, remember it's just boiling just a few moments ago, and then I'm going to take it, I'm going to pour it in here. I'm just trying to, I don't want a lot of water because I will mess up my ratio, because see, if you have less than 60% glycerin, you're more prone to have pathogens or bacterial issues. And that high glycerin level of 60% or above prevents any pathogen issues going on. So I don't want too much water that will mess up my glycerin. So that's why I go to 75%. To give me a little extra wiggle room, because I'm putting this water in here to be able to break open these cells. Okay, now I'm going to put in the glycerin water combination. Remember, you want to mix it up well. It's kind of like making a cake. You make that cake, you take the cake, the bowl, mixing bowl, you put in your powder, you put in your liquid, take your spoon and you stir it a couple times. Is it ready to go in the oven? Not at all. You got to take your mixer and mix it up really good. Well, that's what we're doing here. So we want to make sure and mix it up good, that this glycerin gets down in there good. Now, can you see now? I had glycerin standing a few moments ago, but it's already soaked it up. So we're going to pour in some more glycerin. Don't be in a rush. Because this is going to be medicine for you and your family for the next 2 years, or up to 2 years. So that's the nice thing about making the larger containers. You can make a gallon if you use a lot of it. I have a lot of men come in and get sarsaparilla. And they're taking sarsaparilla because their testosterone's too low. Well, you can just make it, you can make a small jar like this and have to make it every little bit, or you can make a lot and it lasts longer, because it's going to last up to 2 years. Just depends on what you want to do there. We still don't have enough. How much did we say we need to go above? 1 inch. So we still have more to go. You don't want to pour it a lot in at once, because you'll have problems stirring it. So it's a lot easier to just do a little at a time to make sure you've got that good mixture, that good saturation. You've broken those cells open by using that boiling water. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, this is a pint container, I believe. And so you've got 16 ounces. So 16 of these, this will run you in your health food store around $13 to $14 if you went out and bought it. This herb right here, for this amount of herb, for California poppy, will cost you less than $2. So you can see the big difference. 16 times 12 or 13 or 14, it's a big difference. So you're saving your family a lot of money, plus you know what you're getting. You've made it. You know you've got the right ratio of glycerin, that you don't have pathogens start to grow. And it's something that you can do, or better yet, let your kids do it. What a way. You know, I grew up when I was a young boy on a farm, and getting kids involved is so very, very important, because how did I learn how to do a garden? Because I learned because my dad had me out there picking weeds. My dad had me out there planting. And so as our children learn how to do this process, and as they're going to the cabinet every day, it teaches them responsibility. Responsibility, I've got to take care of this medicine that's going to get us through the winter. Let's say you're making elderberry extract. And so as that child shakes it up, puts it upside down the first day, and then tomorrow, oh, I've got a chore. One of my chores is I've got to go take care of the herbs. And so that child can go shake it up, put it back in here. So you're giving that child responsibility. You're teaching that child how to do this when they grow older, and they'll know how to take care of their family. You know, you look at the amount of kids out there today. I have ladies that come in, they have no idea how to cook. Literally, they have no idea. I remember one time we hired a girl in the dietary. I worked in healthcare for 20 years and in administration. And I remember the lady who worked over the nutrition department, dietary, and she was hiring this girl, and she says, I'm going to bring this girl on. She just got married. I know the family. I know the boy. We lived in a smaller community. She says, this girl doesn't even know how to boil water. She said, they won't stay married. That girl's got to learn to cook. And so this lady took her in and tried to help her learn how to cook, because her mother had died in a car wreck, and I don't remember what happened to the father, but the grandmother brought her up, and because of the trauma, the grandmother thought, well, we just won't let that girl learn how to cook. Well, I'll take care of it for her. That was an injustice, because this girl did not know how to cook. Girls don't know how to sew. Girls don't know how to bake bread. Guys don't know how to change oil in the car or change the tire. Those are things that dads teach boys, mothers teach girls. And I have no problem with a dad teaching a daughter how to change the oil and take care of a tire and change a tire, because you never know when that daughter may not have a man there to help take care of her. My grandmother, both of my grandmothers, my great-grandmother, my mom, taught me how to cook. My grandmother taught me how to sew. They taught me how to wash clothes and iron. Those are just things that you have to learn as a child coming up, and kids are not learning today. And this is another thing they can learn. We learned how to put food up. We learned how to can. We learned how to freeze. So a great tool for the kids to help them learn and have responsibility. So what do we do with it? We then will process it, but before we do that, let's look at another method. As we look here, we've agitated it daily for 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll go like this. So this one's already done. I've done this one. It's ready. So what we'll do is we'll take and we'll put it in here. Let's see here. This is sarsaparilla. This is what we use a lot for men who have problems with testosterone. But here's a key we got to learn. Many times we think of herbs we think of it like we do drugs. We're treating signs and symptoms, and we don't want to do that. Yes, there's a problem with a fellow who has a low testosterone, and yes, sarsaparilla will help to raise that testosterone back up. But we don't want to just swap a healthy drug, herb drug, for a pharmaceutical drug. We want to get to root cause. Why does that fella have a testosterone problem? Is it because he doesn't get his sleep at night? Sleep deprivation will cause the testosterone to drop. Is it because he drinks alcohol? Alcohol will cause testosterone to drop. Is it because he has visceral fat, belly fat? Visceral fat increases estradiol. Elevated estradiol lowers the testosterone. Well, why does he have visceral fat? It could be because he's dehydrated. He doesn't drink enough water. It could be because he's eating the new wheat that has 42 chromosomes instead of 16 chromosomes, which is very prone to cause visceral fat in males. It causes a lot of problems, but visceral fat is a huge issue that the new wheat causes. So we want to make sure this fella is getting his sleep, no alcohol at all. We want to take the wheat away from him. Now y'all that are in Germany and Austria and Switzerland and the UK, don't worry, that's okay. Y'all's wheat's different than ours here in America. Or some of y'all that may be in some of the islands places, you won't have a problem. But the wheat in the larger countries, it's been modified. Instead of 16 chromosomes, it has 42 chromosomes. So yes, we can use this to help, but you want to get rid of that root cause where they'll eventually not even have to use this, where they can just be healthy. Now I like using a press. If you have a press, that's really good. Now because this is real rooty, it works real well, but I'll show you what we're going to do here in a minute. I like using a milk bag. A milk bag works a little bit better. It's a little larger. If I have a milk bag, I will actually strain it into the milk bag with a funnel or something, and then squeeze it straight out at the time. So we're doing a little extra process right here because it's a smaller bag. Milk bags are really easy. It's just like what you'd use for making soy milk or almond milk or something like that. It's not much in here. A little. We're getting some. All right. Let me strain this one more time. pour it back in to the measuring cup to pour more easily. And then what you do is you take your bottle, whether it's a 1 ounce bottle or a 2 ounce bottle, 4 ounce bottle, whatever you're using. What you do is you put your, what the herb is, what your ratio is, your ratio of your vegetable glycerin to water, so that's a 3 to 1. And also you can put your date so you know how long it's going to last. And that's it. And you've got your extract ready. It's going to last 1 year to 2 years, and you've got your medicine. You just fill up a bunch of these bottles, whether you're doing 1 ounce bottles, 2, 4 ounce, whatever you want to use. Some people will use droppers. Some people use one, just pour up a teaspoon and take a teaspoon, whichever you'd rather do. It's that simple. Now, what if you wanted to do it faster and you don't have 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or if you doubled it to make an extra strength? There's a faster way of doing it, and we're going to take a look at that real quick. Well, this is the one that we just made a few minutes ago. And so you don't want to go back to the cabinet for the next month and a half or the next month, however long you may do it. There's a faster way of doing it. You can take and put it in a crock pot. And you put several in there at a time. You can use a small crock pot if just one, or you can use a larger crock pot and put larger. If you got mason jars, you can put your mason jars in there. And then what you do is you take water and you'll pour in until it's halfway up the side of the jar. So if you've got a mason jar, you're going to fill the water up to here. You're going to turn it You're going to turn it on low, the lowest that it will go, and you're going to watch it for 3 days. Each morning, midday, in the evening, or if you're not home during the day, that's okay. Morning, make sure it's halfway full of water. In the evening, make sure it's halfway full of water. And in 3 days, it's going to be ready. Let's take a look. So if this extract needs to be sooner or faster processed, one can substitute the 4 to 6 weeks waiting and use a crock pot for 3 days. Now, I messed up here. I failed to put a towel in the bottom. You want to put a towel in the bottom of the pot. I forgot to put that in there. You put a towel in the bottom, and that helps prevent it from breaking. You set it on a towel. Place a towel in the bottom of the crock pot to prevent the mason jar from breaking. Cover the mason jar halfway with water in the crock pot, so we filled it halfway full. Turn the crock pot to low or to warm, whatever the lowest setting is, and you leave it there for 3 days. Add water as needed to maintain the water at halfway up the mason jar. Monitor assure that the crock pot does not get too hot. And that's it. You don't want to cook this stuff in here, you just want to warm it. Keep it warm. So you have to assess your crock pot. Some people have crock pots that just don't go low enough. And so you may have to get a crock pot that goes on, and I forgot what they call it, but it's a warming. And low sometimes is not enough. And so you want to just make sure it goes low, warm, and you'll find out if yours works or not. If it seems to kind of start bubbling and you can smell it. You don't want to start smell it cooking in there. So if you start smelling it cooking, you know that you have it too hot. So it's that simple. You can either use it to where you're shaking it for 4 to 6 weeks. If you want extra strength, you do the same thing. Or if you just have a few days, you can put it in the crock pot for 3 days. If you want extra strength or super strength, Do the same thing. Take it out after 3 days, and now it's just going to take 6 days, almost a week, and you'll have super strength or extra strength. And what you'll do is you will pour it out just as we did here a few moments ago, strain it out. I encourage you to get a milk bag. It's a whole lot easier. You can make one. We've used those before, but I just don't like them as well. But you can squeeze it in there, it gives a little more room, and squeeze all that out, all of the liquid out, the extract out, squeeze it real good. If you have a press, use a press. The press will get even more of it out, where you turn it down, and it squeezes it out like an apple press or a wine press. Use what's called an herbal press. And then you just add, what you'll do is add more plant material to where you be careful, don't put too much plant material. That's real easy. It's better to have too much of the glycerin, because you don't want to add more glycerin, because that's going to dilute it a little. So what you do is put enough, stir it in, wait a few days, and so after a couple days, well, you're doing it for 3 days, so I would wait, later on in the day, stir it, make sure it's absorbed it well, shaking it, and then to make sure you still have some of the extract on top. Because if you add too much, that plant material is going to soak it all up in there, and it's harder to get it out. Well, y'all, isn't it exciting? It's so exciting because we're able to use a plant product that God has made us, and we're able to take that and help people out. And how can we do that? What are some examples? Well, let's take a quick look at some of the options that you have. You've got poke root. Poke root makes a very good extract, and we can use that for cancer. Chaparral. I really like chaparral. Chaparral is just phenomenal as a blood purifier. We use that one also for cancer. If you have a high school kid that has acne, then you can use chaparral, and take you somewhere, I would say maybe 2 mLs or 2 milliliters, 2 dropperfuls. ml is usually about 26 drops in an extract. Or you can use as much as a teaspoon, depending on how strong it is, a day. But chaparral is just phenomenal for cleaning the blood and getting rid of acne. The problem with the extract, the problem with the tea in chaparral, is it tastes nasty. And so sometimes I have to use the capsules for that. The next one is chickweed. Chickweed is great to help. There's a number of things, and as you listen to our herbal program, you'll find just a number of things that each one of these are good for. But you want to take the chickweed, and it's very, very good to help with an appetite suppressant. So if you're having problems, you want to lose weight, you just feel like you could eat a horse, take the chickweed, take 2 mLs, take it before, say 30 minutes to an hour before a meal. See what works best. It's not a cookie cutter. Everyone is different, and see what works best for you. The next one is black cohosh. I'm not a big black cohosh fan, but it has its place. When we work with ladies with hormone issues, the first thing we look at is, do they have a good diet? What's their stress level like? Is their stress out the wall? Well, that's going to mess with their hormones. Juicing is phenomenal. It's tremendous. Get a woman to juice for 30 days. We've had 2 ladies this year that could not get pregnant, and boom, they were able to get pregnant very shortly by just juicing vegetable juice. Using nettle tea, using flaxseed, 3 tablespoons twice a day of flaxseed, grind it, eat it within 15 minutes. Use the wild yam cream, just 1/4 teaspoon, in the morning, in the evening, in the morning, in the evening. Amazing for helping with hormone challenges. Why do I tell you those others? We're talking about extracts here. Well, the reason I share with you other items is because God gives us a lot of different tools, but we want to get to root cause. And nutrition is a huge one for women with hormones. Stress, lack of sleep, not enough exercise, that's big. But if we can't get it under control those other ways, especially if they've had a hysterectomy, we may add the black cohosh. Yes, we use Vitex even before the black cohosh. But black cohosh is a great tool. It's also a great tool if you need to hurry things on at the end process of when it's time for that baby to come, black cohosh and blue cohosh. But be very careful and be under your midwife's supervision in doing that. Ginger root. Ginger root is amazing for digestive issues. Great for people who have challenges with digestion. But did you know it's also great for viruses? It is. Elderberry, another one of my favorite. We all should have elderberry bushes by our house. Elderberries are the top herbalist around the world. If we ever had a pandemic event, this is their herb of choice. They're going to take elderberry because they find elderberry just so powerful in combating viruses. Great tool that God has given us. And you can have that right in your backyard if you grow an elderberry tree. But let me share something else. One of our listeners sent me a message just last night. And they had listened to one of the programs here at Amazing Discoveries, and they were impressed on they needed to change their lifestyle and they needed to start doing natural. But also when they were learning about Old Mountain Remedies, they said, you know what? We need to get out of the city and we need to move to the country. I encourage you, if you're in New York City, I was in New York City just 2 weeks ago talking to people, how do you grow this stuff if you're right there and you're living in concrete? I encourage you, move to the country where you can grow your own herbs, where you can grow your own gardens, where you can raise your children in the country. So, so important. Another one is golden seal. Golden seal is, again, I keep saying my favorite. You know, as I pulled these herbs together, I pulled over 100 herbs, and I had a hard time just pulling 100, and I thought, you know, I've got to have time to share with these folks, but I probably have almost 300 herbs that I use at work to help people out. And golden seal is just amazing. We use it for wounds. We use it for earaches. We use it for people who have problems with strep throat. It's antibacterial, it's antiviral. Very, very strong herb that God has given us. You just don't want to use golden seal for over 2 weeks at a time. Stop for 2 weeks, come back on. It is a powerful antibiotic. And just as your Cipro or your vancomycin or your clindamycin or your penicillin, as you take those antibiotics, you can't take those long term or you'll get resistant to it. The same thing's true on some of God's natural antibiotics. Not all of them, but golden seal and echinacea is two that you don't want to take long term at a time. Plus, you don't want to take golden seal over 6 months at a time, 4 to 6 months, because you can have some depression issues, so you just swap it out with something else. Mullein. Mullein's huge for the lungs. And if a person is having problems with breathing, they've got COPD, they have asthma, mullein is a bronchial dilator, just like your albuterol. And you can make an extract out of mullein, use that, it will open up your lungs, open up those bronchioles, and you can breathe a whole lot better. I use it for people who have lower respiratory infections. It's very good. Astragalus, we've talked about astragalus several times in this program, this series. Astragalus is something we should take every day. It'd take a while just to talk about it all. Very good for us to take astragalus on a daily basis. Cayenne pepper. What do you use cayenne pepper for? Well, cayenne pepper, it increases circulation. But one of the cool things about cayenne pepper is if you get cut, let's say some of y'all listeners that may be in the islands and you use machetes and you're cutting something down and you hit your leg or your foot and it starts bleeding, carry you a bottle of cayenne pepper and pour that out over the wound and it will stop that bleeding. Works very well. If you have ulcers in your stomach, in your colon, say ulcerative colitis, or you have ulcers in the stomach, it will stop the bleeding from that bleeding ulcer. But it's also good for angina. And people will use nitroglycerin. And nitroglycerin is a vasodilator. But when you pick up that bottle of nitroglycerin, you have to be careful. It can give you a headache. There's problems with nitro. Well, with cayenne pepper, literally, I have people that come and they will get my cayenne pepper extract, and they keep this in their pocket, and when they start to get chest pain, angina, they will take a dropper, put it under their tongue, hold it for about 2 minutes, then swallow it. Chest pain goes away. Now what about a heart attack? Cayenne pepper is very, very good if a person's having a heart attack. Again, it works like the nitroglycerin. And you can put that in there and put it under their tongue. You can actually just take the powder and put it in there. I was at a seminar not long ago, a medical seminar, and a man comes up to me and he says, "Can you check my blood pressure?" I said, "Sure." It was 230 something over like 120 some. I said, "Wow." And I called one of my friends actually there's 2 of my buddies there, they're internists, and I said, "Look at this." And normally you would call 911, ship this guy off. And I said, "Well, let's get some history real quick. What's your normal blood pressure?" "Well, it can go up here. It's kind of normal for me." So it's not as acute maybe. He's had history. It's happened for quite a bit. And so I looked at my 2 friends who were internists, and one of them said, "Let's try some cayenne pepper." Now these guys are medical doctors, internal medicine, and what does he say? Let's get some cayenne pepper. So he took the blade of a butter knife. He took about this much. Well, actually, the first time he did it, he took about this much. About this much. And he gave it to the man. And then he took about the same amount again and gave it to him. And within it was not long, we're talking 10, 15 minutes, his blood pressure had significantly dropped. It's a vasodilator. Dandelion. Dandelion is amazing. If you have issues with the liver, it's good for kidney. It's good for any issue of edema. If you need to get that fluid off the system, many things. It's good for women's hormones. The sarsaparilla root. That's what we had here. That's actually in this bottle. Sarsaparilla I use mostly for testosterone, and so the men will come in and they'll buy these bottles. And that testosterone will start climbing and climbing and climbing. And I know it's not just a placebo because they're going back to their attendings and they run another blood test and that testosterone level is going up, it's going up, it's going up, back where we were looking for. I have guys coming to me that are in their late 20s and their testosterone will be somewhere between 150 and 200. Way too low. They should be 700, 750. And as we use the sarsaparilla, now remember, not just the sarsaparilla, we need to also be sure to address the issue of sleep. We need to address the issue of alcohol. We need to address the issue of visceral fat, eating the wheat, looking at those things that may cause it, but this is a great tool to use. Now we don't want to forget, I think of it as a given, but let me re-emphasize here. Does sarsaparilla cure? No. Only God cures. And so we've got to remember, as we work with people, as they're walking out the door, I'll say, don't forget the most important thing. And they've got to know me and they say, prayer. I say, absolutely. Because God is the one that makes this work. It's not the herb. It's not Walt Cross. It's God. And yes, we provide the tool. It's just like this morning. You got up and you ate breakfast. Can you say, God, I don't want to eat anymore. So I want you to keep me alive, and I'm just never going to eat again. That's not going to work. There's a relationship that goes on between us having responsibility and God blessing it. There's no way I can sit down and take an apple, stick it in my body, and make me live. That's a miracle that God does through the digestive process. So don't forget, there's many components we're looking here in this lesson. And that is, yes, we're learning how to make the extracts. Yes, we're learning about, this isn't the only thing to address. We've got to look at lifestyle. But also, don't forget the most important part. You want to pray that God will help. Let's continue. We've got the cayenne pepper. We've got the dandelion. We've got the sarsaparilla. We've got the podiarco. We do a lot of podiarco for guys that are having problems with urination. with prostate issues. Works very well for that. Also, it's excellent for cancer. Saw palmetto, again, it's good for men's hormones. It's good for the prostate. Also, it can help some with female hormones. Jamaican dogwood is good for, that's what we made today. And Jamaican dogwood is good for pain. There's a major issue. Ginkgo biloba is good for brain function. It's a vasodilator, helps with your thinking, your memory. St. John's wort, that's good for taking with issues of anxiety, stress, but be careful with St. John's wort. You don't want to take St. John's wort if you're also taking a psychotropic or something that you're dealing with anxiety medication. It can have the same action, so make sure you check that first. Bilberries, great for the eyes. Bilberry is very, very good for the eyes. A good extract. Valerian root calms the nerves. If a person's having problems with they're just anxious and they need to calm down, works well, especially at night. That's why we use it for helping people go to sleep at night. I actually find a lot of times, so I like mixing my sleep. Instead of just valerian, I like valerian, skullcap, hops, and passion flower. So I use a combination extract. It has valerian, hops, passion flower, and skullcap in it. Works real well. Siberian ginseng. Ginseng is good. I like the American ginseng. That's very, very powerful. It's good for energy. It's just a lot of things ginseng's good for. Milk thistle. That's the one we're using for this is probably the number one extract that I sell. And milk thistle is very good for issues of the liver. Red clover. Red clover is a good blood purifier. It kills cancer and builds immune system. We actually would do good to take red clover every day. Red clover just has a lot of good benefits, prevents us from getting cancer, purifies that blood, keeping that blood good and pure. Damiana is good for female hormones, women who have challenges with hormones. Hawthorn berry, super. That's probably my second. Well, it's one of my major extracts that I do. Hawthorn berry, as I mentioned, is good for arrhythmias, heart issues, arrhythmias. It's good for issues with ejection fraction. It strengthens the heart muscle. It helps with the electrical circulation. Firing from the AV node to the SA node, it's very, very good. Kava. Kava is great. I like kava because it helps with stress, calms you down, but it does not make you sleepy. So that's why I like using kava during the daytime. At nighttime, I like using the valerian, the skullcaps, the hops, the passion flower, the chamomile, but in the daytime, I like the kava. Stinging nettle is very good for allergies. It's probably, as we've talked here in this series about stinging nettle, is now figured possibly the most nutritious of all the herbs. But as an extract, we use it a lot for allergies. We use it for respiratory issues, COPD. We use it for issues with hormones. Another good extract is skullcap. Skullcap is good for anxiety, stress, depression. Corn silk. My great-granddaddy, who was a veterinarian, taught me to use corn silk years ago. And then when I went to school, I just dismissed what he taught us because we did drugs. And I thought school taught us that drugs were just much superior to herbs. And after 20 years of that, working in regular health care, I found Granddad was right. And I left that. And for the last nearly 18 years, I've been working with issues with herbs because I find that we don't have the side effects. They're very, very effective. And I like using these better. Echinacea, there's two kinds, Echinacea angustifolia, Echinacea purpurea, two different echinaceas, depending on what you're wanting them for. Some you can do a combination extract. Have some angustifolia in there, have some purpurea in there. It's really good to boost your immune system, especially in the wintertime for flus. It's a natural antibiotic. Lobelia. Lobelia is another excellent herb. It's good for the lungs. It's good for, it's antispasmodic. It's also a spasmodic. So if you're having problems with coughing, you can't stop coughing, or let's say I had a lady come in one time with pancreatitis, and she was having a lot of spasms, and we made a fomentation of the lobelia and put it over that way, and God blessed. She actually had been sent home to die. She was 29 years old. She had been on Hyperal for 3 months. Her brother and sister-in-law were both internists. Took her home to the father and said, we're bringing sister home to die. There's nothing else we can do in the hospital, and we'd rather her die at home. They were Korean, and the father said, send them to this place. A friend of mine who is a physician went there. He had cancer. The cancer went away. Send my daughter there. And out of the respect that Asians have, I wish we had the respect for our elders as they have. They said, okay. So they brought her to us. She had not had any food by mouth, or I don't even think she'd had, I think that even her fluids had been IV. And for 3 months, we tried giving her water and she'd just throw it up. We tried food, she'd throw it up. She could not even walk on her own. And one of the things that we did for her, we used lobelia, and that helped to stop those spasms and in that pancreas region that she was having. And guess what? By the end of 2 weeks, she was up running around campus. She was eating food with the rest of our health guests, and she's doing very well even today. And that's been about 15 years ago. Olive leaf. Olive leaf is a great antiviral. And if you have shingles, this is my top gun. I use olive leaf extract, and then I'll use some B complex to dress the nerves, use a castor oil pack onto the area of the shingles to dry them up. It's amazing what God does with olive leaf extract. It's also very good if you're going on a mission trip and you're going into an area that has malaria. Take the olive leaf extract 30 days prior to, and all the while you're there, and it significantly lowers your risk of getting malaria. Dong Quai, another great one, and black walnut. Now, black walnut, we use it for worms. This is a big one we use it for, parasites and worms. Well, y'all, we've looked at a number, and this is not all. There's many of them that we can use as we use for extracts. These are just ones that I use on a daily basis to help people with health issues and use them as an extract. So as we look at the different tools God's given us, and as we look at herbs in that tool basket, yes, we've got the bulk herb that we can use as a tea. We can put it in capsules. We can make an extract out of it. We can distill it and make an essential oil out of it. We can take and use it as a poultice or a fomentation. Many different tools in many different ways. It's just like trying to work on a car. And you've got to work on your car to take that spark plug out, and all you have is a hammer. Well, yeah, you can break the top off, but you're not going to get that plug out. So God has given us different tools for different needs. So I encourage you, study. Learn about the herbs God's given you. Learn how to use them different ways. Practice making extracts. Give them away as a gift to somebody, to a neighbor. Some people give loaves of bread away. I say give an extract to somebody and say, you know, neighbor, and you know, our family would like to give you this. It's an extract of elderberries. And in case this winter your family gets sick, take some elderberry, take you a teaspoon of it, you know, 3 times a day, and God will bless that and help you to get better. And so, you know, it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. So I encourage you, take this information, put it into use, and God will bless. Shall we pray? Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much that you care for us. We've been a challenge for you. We ask that you will help these folks around the world, literally around the world that are listening, Give them that desire to learn about the herbs in their region. No, they may not have poke root. No, they may not have chaparral. But they may have leaf of life down in the Caribbean, or they may have something over in Africa, or something different over in Australia, or something different over in Russia. Lord, you provided all these herbs. Give these folks a desire to learn. Give them that academic knowledge. But not just to have an academic knowledge, but to take this information and to apply it to a practical use for their family, for their neighbors, for their co-workers, that can be able to use that and give the glory to you. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.